Hey, Graham.
Hey, man. Did you lose a bet?
Yeah, to Jonathan. And I gotta wear this all week.
All right, guys, about to take one this week. Thomas, thank you for wearing red for once. And okay, back to take one. Coach Robert Armbruster for the FACS Crusaders joins me now for the defense coordinator. Coach Armbruster, thank you for joining me on the JS Report this week.
Glad to be here.
Coach, you went to the Houston football game where the Houston offense looks like they're still clicking on all cylinders. The defense kind of looks like it had its moments throughout the game as well, but they did not give up the big play when it mattered most. Talk about that Houston game with me on the recap.
I thought the difference in the game was Houston's offensive line. I felt their offensive line dominated the football game. Of course, they got a great running game with the junior running back they have named Cisa, I believe. Their quarterback, Dave, who's a sophomore, did an outstanding job running the football as well. Their offense just was hard to handle. And again, I relate back to their offensive line.
Yeah, I think the key for Houston to go forward in this playoff game this week will be the offensive line once again. And they got to put pressure on Germantown's quarterback like they did in the first meeting in a way, because you can't give Germantown all day to throw the football and let them scramble like a Malik Willis type quarterback or even Michael Vick back in the day.
Right. Germantown does have a great quarterback. I believe the kid's name's Tate.
Who should have got more offers, by the way. So, in my opinion, he should have got more offers instead of like a D2 school like Northern Arizona where he's going.
Yeah, but they've got a good offensive football team as well. I mean, I guess they showed that last Friday night to score the points that they scored against a tough Ravenwood team who was number one in that region. That speaks for itself. So I think Houston's got their hands full Friday night. But again, I agree with you. I think their offensive line is going to be the key to this game as well.
So what other game throughout last week kind of stood out to you throughout the city or even the coverage area as well?
Well, being a Bartlett alumni, I have to say Bartlett High School. I think their game against Centennial
right.
was I think that opened a lot of eyes in the state as far as Bartlett's football team. I was fortunate enough to see Bartlett play Houston earlier in the year, and I was really impressed with Bartlett's defensive line that game. I thought their defensive line controlled that football game. Apparently they did a good job last Friday night as well.
Yeah, I think also in that game, I didn't have a chance to go to it, but I saw some highlights that the defense stepped up when it mattered most, because the game was pretty much close the first half, and then defense got a few turnovers and capitalized on that. But the Bartlett offense was clicking on all cylinders throughout the whole game, in that where they totaled over 500 yards of offense, and against a two-loss Centennial defense who hasn't really gave up that many yardage or points throughout the year.
Yeah, and speaking of that, I think it's pretty impressive too that the Memphis area has 3 6A football teams in this next round, because usually having coached in 6A football in this area for about 30 plus years, it's tough when you go against those Middle Tennessee teams. Shelby County hasn't had a great record against Middle Tennessee teams in the playoffs, so it was refreshing last Friday night to see 3 teams win in advance.
Yeah, and absolutely. I hate it for Carver the way that their season ended, going on the road and losing 17-7. But I think the offense is going to lose a lot of seniors in that game, the graduation and whatnot. But it's going to be hard to place Aiden Glover at quarterback.
Yeah. I saw that game also when they played Houston, And their quarterback is an outstanding football player.
Any other games stood out to you throughout the city?
Gosh, let me think. I'm curious to see what Mace is going to do this week. You know, they've only been scored on, I think, 3 times this year.
Right.
And gets a little tougher as you go along in the playoffs. So I'm interested to see how they do.
Yeah, I'm looking at the game for MUS and Father Ryan. I know MUS did not outgain Father Ryan, but that defense for the Owls, stepped up to the power of Father Ryan, capitalized them, and only held them to over 200 yards. But the Owls' offense got to get clicking for them to have a chance this week.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you get in the playoffs, to me, the key to advancing in the playoff is playing good, solid defense. And like you said, MUS is noted for their defense. This year, their defense is an outstanding group. Offensively, you just got to do enough to keep you in the ball game at this point in time of the year. Again, I'm a firm believer that the teams that have the best defense and teams that play the best defense this time of the year are the teams that are going to advance.
All right, guys, that's my take 1 this week, and good luck to other teams throughout the week. All right, guys, my take 2 this week. Let's do a little bit of look-ahead preview for some playoffs for this Friday, Coach. But congratulations to all the teams that lost last Friday. They had a successful season, and just work hard in the offseason and get you guys ready for the postseason. I know y'all fell short this year, but what can you say about the area in general that kind of surprised you for this year in general?
I think the biggest surprise to me is 6A football in this part of the state, especially in Shelby County. Like I said earlier, to have 3 teams advance the second round out of 6A is basically unheard of from this part of the country. But I'm excited to see how far they advance. I think one of those 3 6A teams have a good chance of making it all the way to Chattanooga.
Yeah, let's look ahead to these games this week because it is like a lot of interesting games throughout the city as well. BTW got a huge win last week over Halls. They go to at Peabody 9-2. I think the BTW can basically score some points possibly, but traveling to Trenton Peabody is going to be a tough task for the BTW.
Yeah, and Trenton Peabody is known for having a good football team. They're going to be well coached. They're not going to beat themselves. You got to beat them, and that's going to be it's going to be a tough chore to beat them.
Right.
But there again, hopefully that getting that big win last week will help them.
And then Lake County 8-3 at Mace. That'll be a true test for Coach Miller and the Mace Phoenix.
The Mace Phoenix to me are a team that's destined to make it to Chattanooga. They've got talent, they got size, they got a great coaching staff, and they're on a roll right now.
2A, you got Huntington at Fairleigh. Fairleigh's still undefeated. Hopefully Fairleigh Bulldogs with Coach can still go on and move on for the Memphis area.
Yeah, Fairleigh's been playing really well lately. I think they're a dark horse team in that particular category.
Okay, now we got 3A, Millington 7-4 at Covington 9-2. Thomas brought up a good point last week after the game. Will Millington's offense finally get some more points on the board, with the offense basically clicking on all cylinders lately with the quarterback play and a little bit of the running play? And the offensive line have been stepping up for the Trojans lately. But the defense is going to have to step up as well for the Trojans to get a victory in Covington in a hostile environment against Covington.
Yeah, I've known Coach Michaels for years, and he does a great job at Millington. And there's no doubt in my mind he'll have his guys ready to play. But going into, like you said, that environment at Covington's, that's tough.
Especially during playoffs.
Yes, and being in the playoffs, it's going to be a rowdy place.
Yeah, we didn't Ripley at Dyersburg in that one, but anybody could win that one. 4A, you got South Gibson 7-4 at Haywood, 11-0. A coach you're familiar with, Coach Smith in Haywood. They're basically clicking all cylinders again this year. It could go far for them as well.
Yeah, Haywood's a talented bunch. They got a good coaching staff, and I look for them to make a run to Chattanooga as well.
In a 5A game O'Brien plays at Mountain now, but in 5A game, Springfield at Mufford. Mufford Cougars, the undefeated again. They're undefeated like the other team, Mace. But Braxton Sharp, Jordan Bell, the offensive line is punching on all cylinders. Like I told Thomas during the season, Mumford only returned 3 starters on defense. For them to be undefeated up to this point with only 3 returning starters on defense, Coach Calhoun and the Cougars will be ready for that challenge.
Oh, they better be. From what I hear, Springfield is a pretty good football team. Of course, when you get to this point in time, everybody's a good football team, but they're going to have to play. They're going to have to play up to their max Friday night, from what I'm hearing, because I heard Springfield's pretty tough.
Yeah, and 6A Germantown at Houston, we already touched on that a little bit. It could be a high-scoring affair. Both teams' offensive line is going to be on all cylinders for that one. Brentwood at Bartlett, we've already touched on it. Bartlett's offense, 500 yards last week against Centennial, but the defense is going to be up to the challenge against Brentwood this week. And a veteran rematch 2 years ago in the semifinals.
Right, I was going to say, you got a little revenge factor there, too. So.
And then 2A, you got Lakeway at USJ. USJ, I think, is going to pull that one off. The team that you're familiar with, the Bruins. Trinity, 5-6. Travels on the road in Jackson. MTSCS, 9-2 at Jackson Christian. Jackson Christian, team that you've seen throughout the year. What can you say about the Jackson team for the Jackson viewers?
Jackson Christian, Middle Tennessee Christian game is going to be a great football game. I've seen Middle Tennessee Christian on film. They run an unorthodox offense. Jackson Christian, they've got a great quarterback. They've got a running back that's dynamite as well. So, again, it's going to get down to what I said. Whichever team can play the best defense is going to win that football game.
Absolutely. 2AA CPA, 6-5 at Lausanne, 8-1. I think you could see a lot of points in that one. CPA basically is a dangerous team, although the record is 6-5. They can score a lot of points. Brock Glenn and company for the Lausanne Lynx can basically score a lot of points as well with their running game and their passing game. So if anybody wants to go see that game, that could be an interesting shootout as well. 2 AAA Christian Motors, 7-4. They beat Knoxville Catholic last week, which was a little bit of a challenge in the first half a little bit. They finally played at NBA 10-0. Tough challenge for Coach McDaniel and the Waves, or Purple Wave, to travel to Nashville. But that game, could favor Christian Motors in a way just because they got over that first round.
Yeah, I mean, Christian Brothers is well coached. They got a good football team. But again, you're talking about going to Middle Tennessee and you're having to play in their backyard, which is a big plus for NBA.
Right. And then other games, McCallie 9-2 at Innsworth, 7-3. MUS 8-3 at Baylor. Could, since Coach Massey ain't there at Baylor no more, so could the Owls and Coach Austin, Coach Finney basically pull the shocker, but could they go into Nashville and pull that win?
I think they can.
Or Chattanooga, I mean.
Yeah, I think they can. They're going to have to play again. Like I keep referring back to this time and time again, but they're going to have to play outstanding defense. Again, their offense has struggled a little bit as of late, but if they can score some points and their defense plays to their maximum that they're capable of playing, I think they've got a good chance of winning the football.
And then the other D2 AAA game is Pope John Paul 8-3 at Brentwood Academy 8-2. Pope John Paul scored a lot of points last week, so the Eagles' defense better be ready for that Pope John Paul offense, in my opinion. But guys, that's the look ahead for this week. Coach Armbruster, thanks again for looking ahead with me. That's my take 2 this week. All right, guys, my take 3 this week. A little bit of a FACS season overview from the Crusaders this year. Coach, I saw y'all scrimmage Sheffield in the first week of the scrimmage period and whatnot. Y'all finished the year 2-8, 1-5 in the league, but I think overall the guys can grow from it because this is still Coach McDaniel's second year.
Right.
So what can you say about this season and to look ahead for the future?
Well, let me say this first of all. Coach McDaniel's done an outstanding job. When he came to FACS, he has a vision, and he's working toward that vision. And again, I think the people at FACS understand this as well, that when you build a program from the bottom up, and it's literally from the bottom up, believe me, it takes a while to win. But if you look at the things Coach McDaniel's done, without a doubt, we're making strides at FACS. The record may not show it this year, but we're definitely making strides as far as getting the program to where it needs to be.
I've always said, same thing regarding Coach Joey Magnifico at St. Benedict. He's building that team from ground up.
Right.
And with the enrollment figures as the private schools are these days, I forgot what y'all's new enrollment, but it's like 200 something kids.
Right.
Meanwhile, SBA does have a little bit more for like the 400 range, but SBA is doing a good job by dropping down next year to play y'all in the league and whatnot. But just talk about any players that stood out to you, any seniors that left the legacy at FACS that you would like to talk about.
Well, I mean, you hate to talk about individuals,
Right.
When you're building a team sport, and that's what we're basing everything on, is upon the team itself. But as far as individuals go, we had not that many seniors this year, but the seniors we had contributed greatly both to last year's football team and to this year's football team. Some standouts I can think of are running back Jake Pennington did a great job at running back both last year and this year. Last year, I think he ran close to 1,000 yards, had close to 1,000 yards rushing again this year as well. Jacoby Moore, who played tight end for us, played a little defensive line for us, had an outstanding year. Ethan Gay, our free safety, 2-year starter for us. Not very big in stature, but boy, he'd lay a lick on you.
Yeah.
And those, and that's just to mention a few of them. But again, those are the type of kids that are the foundation for the program. Those type of kids have got to be the building blocks for where we're planning on going and where we're planning on getting to. And like I said, Coach McDaniel's doing a great job of laying the groundwork for us to get to where we need to be.
And I think, like you said, didn't tell me they got like 25 freshmen or 25 freshmen on this team?
We had 17 freshmen on this year's roster. I was joking around with somebody the other day. Of course, I was defensive coordinator this year, but there were times when we had 5, 6 freshmen playing on defense against teams primarily that were juniors and seniors.
Yeah.
So needless to say, you're going to take your licks when that happens. But those kids fought hard. They worked hard. I'm anxious to see them with a year in the weight room and see what next year has to bring.
I think the future does look bright, like I said, for Coach McDaniel. Hey, he's got that coaching background from Bartlett days to SYS days to his older brother at Christian Brothers to let's just say the future does look bright for the Crusaders, in my opinion, as well, because they have a veteran staff like yourself and other coaches and Coach McDaniel on that coaching staff. So, guys, if anybody wants to go catch FACS next year, hopefully the schedules will come out soon for a lot of teams, because it's going to be hard to find schedules in general, so far late in the game as well. So, Coach Armbruster, thank you for your time this week.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much.
All right, guys, my tape 4. Congratulations to all the Mr. Football semifinalists this week or this year. Let's bring them some love. For 1A, you got a player from Mace named Kumaro Brown. 2A, you got Jaquan Davis from Fairleigh, who pretty much led the city in interceptions this year, I believe. 3A, you got Mark Joseph from Sheffield. We talked about him a couple weeks ago with Mark. 4A, you got nobody. 5A, you got Braxton Sharp from Mufford. That Southwind game probably got him a little bit more votes to get him over the 300 yards against Southwind to get him in that semifinalist. But to me, he should have been a semifinalist because Mufford's progress throughout the year regardless. 2A, you got nobody. 2AA, you got Brock Glenn from Lausanne to Ohio State commit. 2 AAA, you got Max Carroll from Briarcrest, who's a TCU commitment. And then in the kickers, we got 2 players this year. Max Gilbert from Lausanne, and then you got Ozel Hernandez, the kicker from Germantown as well. So, Coach, I forgot to bring that up. That Germantown-Houston game could go down to special teams as well. So if anybody wants to go catch some high school football this Friday night, it's at 7 p.m. or some games might start at 6 o'clock. Be on the lookout for their Twitter page, Facebook page, or wherever you can find the latest information on your team and go out and go support the boys and the band and enjoy some concessions while you're at it, because a lot of teams could raise that money for that program.
Hey, we thank you, John, for JS Report. Coach, thanks for coming out. Hey, week 2 of the playoffs coming up. Big week for a lot of teams, but like John said, those teams that got to the first round, suffered a tough loss. Congratulations on a great season. Making it to November is nothing to overlook. So, hey, keep building. Take that next step forward. Hey, my Millington Trojans, rematch with Covington. That's where I'll be this week up in Covington. They lost 44-0 in the second game of the season. Both teams have grown and gotten better. But had the Trojans covered up that gap, I think they're going to make some noise and put a scare into those Chargers. So we'll see Friday night. And hey, congratulations to Houston and Germantown. The rivalry lives on. Just think, they try to cancel that rivalry. They've been playing every year. Just, hey, you can't stop tradition. But hey, who's going to come out of that matchup? It's going to be the Mustangs or the Red Devils. Too close to call, but home field advantage for Houston is definitely coming handy. And with everybody the talk of the town, I am in Bartlett. Those Panthers, they made a statement. But hey, just come out and do it again. Can you do it again this week and put Brentwood away? And plus, I was there in 2020 with Robert Giammo and all those guys. Took that tough loss. Sweet taste of revenge. Let's see if we can get that. And lastly, I wrap up with this. My Mumford Cougars, Braxton Sharp, congratulations on being a semifinalist for Mr. Football. 11-0, first time in school history. Springfield, they're looking forward to ruining that. They want to end that. They don't even want you to see Henry County. But can the Cougars take care of business? I think they can, because that defense, although they only had returned 3 starters, they've been gelling and coming together. And Slade Calhoun, he hangs his hat. Even if it's an ugly Georgia hat, he hangs his hat on defense. So, hey, get out there and catch some football this week. And, hey, we'll see you, because we'll be here next week for the quarterfinals, because we'll have some teams still going.